Hi boys and girls, it's Mrs. Campbell. I'm going to read you this book called Zen Shorts by John J. Muth. Michael, there's a bear outside, said Carl. A what? Called Michael. A bear. He's really big. And he's in the backyard. What's he doing? Michael asked. He's sitting, and he has an umbrella, said Carl. An umbrella? By the time the boys got outside, Addie was already talking to him. I'm sorry for arriving unannounced, said the bear. The wind carried my umbrella all the way from my backyard to your backyard. I thought I would retrieve it before it became a nuisance. He spoke with a slight panda accent. Michael introduced himself, and Addie introduced herself, because Carl was shy around bears he didn't know. And this is how Addie, Michael, and Carl met Stillwater. The next day, Addie went to have tea with Stillwater. Hello, Addie said as she stepped inside. Come in, called a faraway voice. And then she heard the voice say, oh yes, come out. And Stillwater was in the backyard. He was inside of a tent. This is a birthday present from my Uncle Rye, Stillwater said. He always gives presents on his birthday to celebrate the day he was born. I like it so much that I'm not staying in my home right now. Stillwater invited Addie to sit with him. You brought me some cake, said Stillwater. That was very nice of you. Is it your birthday? He asked. No, said Addie. It's not mine either, said Stillwater. But let me give you a gift for my uncle's birthday. I will tell you a story. Uncle Rye and the Moon. My Uncle Rye lived alone in a small house up in the hills. He didn't own many things. He lived a very simple life. One evening he discovered he had a visitor. A robber had broken into his house and he was rummaging through my uncle's few belongings. The robber didn't notice Uncle Rye, and when my uncle said, hello, the robber was so startled he almost fell down. My uncle smiled at the robber and he shook his hand. Welcome, how nice of you to visit, he said. The robber opened his mouth to speak, but he couldn't think of anything to say. Because Rye never let anyone leave empty-handed, he looked around for the tiny hut for a gift for the robber, but there was nothing to give. The robber began to back toward the door. He wanted to leave. At last, Uncle Rye knew what to do. He took off his only robe, which was old and tattered. Here, he said, please take this with you. The robber thought my uncle was crazy. He took the robe and dashed out the door and escaped into the night. My uncle sat and looked at the moon, its silvery light spilling over the mountains, making all things quietly beautiful. Poor man, lamented my uncle. All I had to give him was my tattered robe. If only I could have given him this wonderful moon. Would you give a robber in your house a gift? Your uncle sounds nice, said Abby. I don't think I could have given away my only robe. I know how that is, said Stillwater, but there's always the moon. That was a good story, said Addie. Thank you, said Stillwater, and this is good cake. Thanks, Addie said. I made it myself. The next day, Michael went to see Stillwater. Here I am, Stillwater called from the tree. Can I come up? Michael said. If you are careful, said Stillwater. What if we could fly, said Michael. We could cast shadows on the clouds, said Stillwater. Looks like they're making paper airplanes. But what if we fell, said Michael. If we fell, we might break something, said Stillwater. That would be bad, said Michael. Maybe, said Stillwater. Maybe, asked Michael. So Stillwater told Michael this story, The Farmer's Luck. There once was an old farmer who had worked his crops for many years. One day his horse ran away. Upon hearing the news, his neighbors came to visit. Such bad luck, they said sympathetically. Maybe, the farmer replied. The next morning the horse returned, bringing with it 2 other wild horses. Such good luck, the neighbors exclaimed. Maybe, replied the farmer. The following day his son tried to ride one of the untamed horses, was thrown off, and broke his leg. Oh, the neighbors came to offer their sympathy. Such bad luck, they said. Maybe, answered the farmer. The day after that, the military officials came to the village to draft young men into the army to fight in the war. Seeing the son's leg was broken, they passed him by. Such good luck, the neighbor said. Maybe, said the farmer. I get it, said Michael. Maybe good luck and bad luck are all mixed up. You never know what will happen next. Yes, said Stillwater, you never know. The day after that, Carl went to visit Stillwater. Michael said I couldn't bring over our stuff to go swimming. I'm mad at Michael. He's always telling me what to do. So I brought everything. Said Stillwater. It's a little pool. I don't know if all those things will fit in it. Let's see, said Carl. Stillwater looked at the pool. The things can go swimming, but we can't, he said. I brought too much stuff, said Carl. That's okay, said Stillwater. I'll help you carry it home later. Why does Michael always have to tell me what to do, Carl said. If he were here, I would climb up really high and jump on him like this and do a big smash like that. Later, Carl and Stillwater had tea. Carl, said Stillwater, you spent the whole day being angry with Michael. Did you notice how much fun we had? Carl watched the steam rising from his cup. I'm sorry I brought all this stuff, Carl said. You don't need to be sorry, said Stillwater. Right now you need to carry. Hold on tight while I tell you a story. A heavy load. The 2 traveling monks reached a town where there was a young woman waiting to step out of her chair. The rains had made a deep puddle, and she couldn't step across without spoiling her silken robe. She stood there looking very angry and upset. And impatient, she was scolding her attendants. They had nowhere to put the packages they held for her, so they couldn't help her across the puddle. The young monk noticed the woman and did nothing, and walked by. The older monk quickly picked her up, put her on his back, carried her across the water, and put her down on the other side. She didn't thank the older monk. She just shoved him out of the way and departed. That wasn't very nice, was it? As they continued on their way, the young monk was brooding and preoccupied. After several hours, unable to hold his silence, he spoke out. That woman back there was very selfish and rude, but you picked her up and carried her, and she didn't even thank you. I set that woman down hours ago, said the older monk. Why are you still carrying her? That's a good lesson about holding a grudge, isn't it? Do you think you've carried it long enough? Asked Stillwater. Yes, said Carl. Good, said Stillwater. And this is how Addie, Michael, and Carl and Stillwater all became friends. Looks like Stillwater is lifting Carl into the window. The end. I hope you loved that story and enjoyed the 3 little stories in the book. Good night.